Lee, you got to see it. He's got to go up and down on a freight elevator.
Oh
The
gosh,
elevator is
I
like
would
bigger
love
than my
to.
bedroom.
I love to. I need to
Uh,
just, if I could make it back up to the Boston show, maybe I could go timed. Well, I don't know. You'd probably be too busy
yeah.
to give
Oh,
Richard talked
your
me into
house.
getting a table. I'm getting a half table. Richard talked me into coming to the show as an exhibitor. So I guess since you weren't going to be there, I got to go fill the slot. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rare Book Cafe, the book lovers' rendezvous. I'm here with you, Ed Markiewicz, Montgomery Rare Books, currently residing in Amherst, Massachusetts. My co-host Linn, Ridge Books, Calhoun, Georgia. Hello, Lee.
Hello, Ed. I am currently residing in Calhoun, Georgia, and probably will be for some time to come.
And who's that guy whose picture's up there above yours?
Well, there's this, he wanders in a lot. We haven't been able to figure out how to keep him out. Richard Mori of Mori Rare Books, in Nashua,
Nashua,
New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire?
That's right. And
I'm here, guys. Hello.
and Richard is the organizer for Books in Boston, which is a shadow show in Boston the first weekend in November. First weekend, second weekend,
Well, actually, it's the second weekend.
second weekend. Okay,
The ninth.
the 9th of November. And he's going to tell us, I think, things he's bringing to the show and people who are coming to the show and encouraging you to come to the show. So, Richard, we're
I
glad
love to
to
see
have you.
Richard a couple of
Well,
weeks ago. I was up to the dungeon on the eighth floor.
I don't
He
remember
has
you.
some treasures up there.
I don't remember you paying me to get out, Ed. Did you?
I took off the shackles and escaped. Lee, you got to see it. He's got to go up and down on a freight elevator.
Oh
The
gosh,
elevator is
I
like
would
bigger
love
than my
to.
bedroom.
I love to. I need to
Uh,
just, if I could make it back up to the Boston show, maybe I could go timed. Well, I don't know. You'd probably be too busy
yeah.
to give
Oh,
Richard talked
your
me into
house.
getting a table. I'm getting a half table. Richard talked me into coming to the show as an exhibitor. So I guess since you weren't going to be there, I got to go fill the slot.
I guess you're gonna have to. I had to have a booth. That's what I have.
yeah,
Now they're funny little tables. You should be warned. They're
yeah.
oddly shaped little tables.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm oddly
no,
shaped too.
actually, they're no different than Florida. They're just 18-inch instead of 30. That's all.
They're only
Yeah,
18 inches
yeah,
wide.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So you have to think carefully about how you're gonna do everything.
So the back table is actually 30 inches wide,
It was the one that
and
had
the
bookcases
and
on.
yeah, and the side table is 18-inch,
Yeah,
which they will hold a book. Will hold a bookcase.
yeah.
All right, we'll figure it out. Richard, what you got there today?
Well, first of all, Ed, I'm going to do something I don't get to do too often. I'm going to actually promote another show because it's just a couple weeks away, the Buffalo Book Fair. And the reason I promote this is that my good friend Ron Cozy has been wanting to have a book show in Buffalo for many, many years. We did one, God, 15, 18 more years ago. And they're going to have another one that's going to be at the end of October, just in 2 weeks. I think it's October 26th, 5th and 25th and 26th. So it's hope that people who might see this might take a chance and go see it. It's a wonderful venue. Go online at findbookfairs.com and you'll find it.
Yes, and
So,
we've had Ed on talking
yep,
about those.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give it a quick plug. So here it is. Let's see. Get what's coming up. Halloween. What do we need to make Halloween? Candy. Why not? So this is a wonderful, sweet little piece from 1920 on candy making. Not an expensive book, a beautiful cover, decorated cover, beautiful piece from that period. So that's one of the ones. And of course, if you're gonna be home giving out candy, on Halloween, you probably want to get your beer out, and so you better start brewing it pretty early because you're going to need it. This is a wonderful, sweet piece, 1880s on brewing.
What's the title again? Brewing.
And it's 1877, actually. Nice early piece on the subject, and not too common.
Now, I see you got to tell us your opinion about library stamps. I see that's been properly deacquisitioned from a library.
It has, and of course, not all are. I'll tell you that in terms of value in this particular case, I don't think the stamp means anything. Yeah. It's an unusual, rare book.
And for the right collector.
Yeah. But you bring up an interesting point, Ed, and I'll share a quick little story. So years ago, I got invited to look at some books. They were actually in a tractor trailer on the guy's property. And I started going through the books. And I was halfway through, and I was picking through just only a few things. And then I realized that this was a library from somebody who was significant as an author, named Edward Rowe Snow. And in New England, he's a very well-known author, wrote a number of books. And so I actually went back to the beginning of the boxes, and because I now had a different mindset, and I picked through the collection differently, because I kind of knew, in fact, what his library might contain. So I assembled it together, bought the books. Interestingly enough, I bought some of the signed books, and the gentleman who was selling to me valued those much more than the other things, because they were the rare, quote, signed copies of Edward Rowe Snow. I didn't have the heart to tell him that Edward Rowe Snow signed more books than there were unsigned. But so the side story is when I got home and I started working the collection, I realized there were books there from the Boston Athenaeum. Now, the Boston Athenaeum, for those who aren't familiar, is one of the most venerable institutions in the United States, one of the very first repositories of books and knowledge, and has a great long history. Yeah. Well, it turns out Edward Rowe Snow was president of the Athenaeum at one time. And because he was president, I think he had access to the collection unlike others. And some of the things from his library actually belonged to the Athenaeum, as I figured out, and they had not been deaccessioned. So in fact, I put the list together, and I went down to the Athenaeum, and I guess I called them first. I did end up going down, but I did call them, and I said, listen, I've got some of your books. I think these were in Edward Rowe Snow's library. And I sent them the list. And very nicely, after a little while, they responded and said, yes, these were our books. And in fact, they had been missing from the collection, but most of them had been replaced. So she said, but we would like back such and such a copy. And I said, well, I'll be glad to return it to you. So in fact, she said, you can keep the others, but nice. please return this copy to us. And I did. And,
Pays to be honest.
Yep. And I delivered it to them personally so that we wouldn't have any. So, but that's important because in our trade, we sometimes find ourselves in a position of who really should own this material. But then in terms of if you're going to be drinking, you've got to have some food. And there's nothing better than diner food. And this is a nice
I went to
piece.
A diner last night.
Yeah, I love diner food. I eat at diners all over the place.
I was at a diner down in East Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, a wonderful piece. It's and this is, of course, this is the diner on dining cards in the railroads. So that makes it even a little more interesting. So those are some of the things.
The Greek's greatest contribution to America.
Yeah, and I do have. I'm going to just run through this part really quickly. I'm bringing, of course, some material on Black Americana. There's nothing probably a little more less interesting than this little piece, Brer Rabbit. This is an unusual unusual edition. It's later, a children's book, but in fact, there are no copies online. So a nice little piece, and of course, you can't do anything in Black Americana without talking about Little Black Sambo. And this is actually a really good example of why people think that Little Black Sambo is about an African and not an Indian, because the illustrator took a liberty with the original art and Americanized and Africanized the Sambo, and that's why we have the confusion today about Little Black Sambo. And this is, of course, this is the most sought after Sambo piece because every kid, yours and my generation, Ed and Lee, well, Lee's probably
I
a
had
little
one.
young. Lee's younger than we are, so she
I'm
might.
afraid Lee is not younger than you are, so
I'm trying to get brownie
I
points, Lee.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate
So,
it.
so I
Very
mean,
good.
this is the book everybody's looking for. But there were lots of other children's books. Just happens to be one of them. Jerome, you may be familiar with this, Lee.
Yeah,
This is,
I've seen that one.
yeah,
I don't know that
this is the library bound copy, and then of course there's this. This is I love this one. This is a little sweet piece, Petunia. It's really nice. But I'll tell you, I don't. There's nothing more I enjoy in the Black African community than their cooking, and this is a good example of a cookbook from the South. Matter of fact, I think I can tell you where this is from, Leo. This is from, it's Washington, D.C. is where it was published, 1942.
Some people say that's in the South.
Some people would say that's in the
Some
South.
people would say it's in the South. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lee, I understand you got a book there. You had a question for, or at least an opinion that you wanted to get from Richard.
Well, yeah, I did. This is 1950 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer pop-up book. And it came out in 1939. But this is a pop-up that was done and it came with it's spiral bound. You can see, but it came with this glassine cover that is, of course, attached, but it's come off rather badly. And so my question for Richard had been, should I just leave it as is? We didn't think that a conservator could do much with it because it's it's kind of falling apart.
Oh my!
Yeah,
it would peel right off. But
it's like me after a sunburn.
I'm afraid to start peeling, so I'm just going to do what Richard suggests and put it in a acid-free sleeve and leave it as is. But other than that, it's in really nice shape and has very nice pop-ups. Let's see if I can get to one. The pop-ups are done by somebody named Marion Guild. Do you know that name?
Well, I'm familiar with the book.
With the book, I knew that.
But I don't know any other of her work, which is interesting.
I didn't recognize it either, but it's a very nice little pop-up book of Rudolph, and so it will be going around with me some.
Oh, Lee, I just noticed something. Go back to that pop-up. You see the airplane? Look at the airplane. How many propellers on? How many propellers on that airplane? 4. Is there one on the nose? No.
No.
Okay. So, but that's the exact style airplane that's in the original Montgomery Ward. Montgomery. Edition.
Well, I have to get mine out and look at the two.
So, the distinction between the first printing of the Montgomery Ward book and the second printing?
Enlighten us.
Huh?
Yeah. I didn't hear it.
Enlighten us.
Oh, yeah. So in the first printing of the Montgomery Ward book, the airplane has a propeller on the nose.
Oh, okay.
Which is totally inaccurate for that type of airplane. And so it was removed in the later printings, and that's what distinguishes the first from the second.
Okay. Well, I'll have
Richard,
to
we got to
check
figure
that
out how to preserve your brain after you're gone.
You may not want to go there, Ed.
Well, anyway, it just sort of, appeared at my doorstep with a number of other books from a lady who was sorting through books that had been donated to a children's center, and she was tasked with doing something with the books, the ones that the center didn't want. And so I picked up a few things.
Good for you.
A couple of Uncle Wigglies.
Yeah.
Because my husband grew up reading Uncle Wiggily and my mother-in-law loved Uncle Wiggily. And so I bought those for my grandchildren to go in their little personal libraries. They'll probably be silly, but we don't care about that.
Wonderful. All right, everybody. I think we're going to wrap it on up now. And I can't say I'm getting the high sign from Alan. Has anybody ever seen Alan? He's never been on the show. I mean, does he exist really, or is it just a voice?
Just a disembodied voice.
Just an disembodied voice.
Alan is AI.
And one last reminder, Books in Boston, November 9th. Be there because that's where it's going to be happening.
Thank you, Richard. Good to see everybody again. Let's do this again next week.
All right.
The Rare Book Cafe, the Book Lovers Rendezvous. You can find us on YouTube. That's the best place to find us. Facebook isn't bad. Instagram's wonderful. Give us a dial. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.